Hello and welcome to tonight's LCBO virtual event tasting of Ontario Craft Beer. We will be going through LCBO's trade partners. I am Ren Navarro. I run Beer Diversity. I am a drinks expert. I'm also a diversity and inclusion consultant. And tonight we're going to go through 8 different beers. Again, the LCBO's trade partners. Please drink responsibly tonight. We are going through 8 drinks, so this is a marathon, not a sprint. If you have not picked up the beers that we'll be going through tonight, you can get them at the LCBO, and you can either get them in person, online for home delivery, online for same day orders. It's easy to do, lcbo.com. And tonight I am excited to say that I'm joined by Tara Luxmore. Tara, how are you?
I'm so great, Ren. It's so nice to be with you virtually to taste through some of summer's trendiest beers. I'm a certified Cicerone, which is kind of like a sommelier, but for beer. I'm also a Prud'homme beer sommelier, and I judge beer. So my life is beer. I have a company called Beer Sisters with my real life sister, and I'm excited to be tasting.
You and me both. So again, if you're following along at home or you want to know what you're going to pick up later on, we are going to be starting with Wellington Helles. And it is a lager. It's from Wellington Brewery in Guelph. And they've been around since 1985. So they're one of Canada's oldest independent breweries. And they put this out, I think, a couple of years ago, right, Tara? This was...
Yeah, I think 2017.
Yeah, and this is one of those beers that it's a light, a light flavor. So, when people talk about beer flavored beer, this is kind of that summer refresher where it's really about enjoying while you're out with friends. If you want to elevate it, it's great with fried calamari, which is one of my personal favorites, with a little bit of lemon just to cut through it. You're looking at a medium and malty flavor. So, Sarah, I've talked too long. Let's try it.
It's like a beautiful, brilliantly clear beer too, with like a lovely fluffy head.
Yeah, it really is. And sorry.
No, it's okay. I was just gonna say, it kind of smells like the bakery. I smell like fresh baguette, the inside of it. I smell some crusty bread, some crackery malt, and then like some nice kind of spicy floral old world hops.
Yeah, and the great thing about this is it's food friendly. So it's not just a sit and drink it by itself. Again, like Tara said, with those bread notes, and you're having like mussels. So, you're thinking of like dipping your bread in with that broth. This is kind of that like filler. So yeah, this is definitely like summer sipper, hanging out, having a great meal with some friends.
This is like my staple cooler beer, like a Helles. Especially this one from Wellington. It's so well made. It's beautiful. It's clean. It's refreshing. It's what I serve to my guests. It's what I serve to my friends who say they love beer. It's the perfect summer beer.
Yeah, and it's fully accessible. That's the great thing about all of the beers we're going to be going through. But starting with that, it's just a nice, easy step into it. So, Tara, what is our next beer?
Oh, so the next trend that we're going to get into is citrus beers and also less alcohol beers. So in my hands, I have a Radler. So you can kind of think of a Radler just like a cocktail. Essentially, it's the beer world's version of a mimosa. This one is from Beau's Brewery in like very beautiful, picturesque Van Cleek Hill, just outside of Ottawa. And the Radler, let's crack it and pour it. But I'll tell you a little bit about the Radler, Ren. The Radler came to be in the 1920s. The legend is that there was an innkeeper in Bavaria who was running low on beer. And so a bunch of cyclists were on their way. So he decided to mix his lager with some citrus juice. And the Radler was born. And it is typically under 3%. And it is a mix of different styles of beer. Most often lagers mixed with citrus juice, grapefruit juice, and lager is a classic. And that's what this one is from Beau's. Let's take a smell.
Yeah, that is so lovely. It's got like such a fresh, almost like pink grapefruit smell to it.
Totally. And you can kind of smell, like if you're ever cutting up citrus, make sure you smell the rind, because I'm smelling so much grapefruit rind here. And that's because they put the essence of a grapefruit rind in this beer as well. It's just like fresh and zesty.
Oh yeah.
And it's like nice and bubbly, really smooth, fruity. It really does drink like a cocktail.
It does. And I love that effervescence to it. It's almost like it has a little bit more, almost champagne bubbles, if I would go as far to say.
Totally. And speaking of champagne and speaking of mimosas, this is the best beer for brunch. It has the bubbles that can cut through, like, stickier, heavier fare, like Eggs Benedict. And it also has those like beautiful citrusy notes that complement and contrast like the sweeter dishes that you have at brunch. It's the perfect breakfast beer.
It really is. Now I'm craving some brunch.
Pair it up.
Right. I think, and the great thing about all of these, like, yes, we're going to give you some food pairings and we're going to say what we think they would go with. But really, the great thing about this is experimentation. So try it with something, anything really, and see what works. Tara's talked about contrasting and being able to like cut through some things. So really think about that while you're drinking these, just to have something a little different. We're going to move into fruit beer. So I'm going to be talking about the Brock Street Brewing Strawberry Blonde. And this is a refreshing, easy drinking lagered ale. Brock Street is out in Oshawa on Brock Street. And so you start to get a little bit more color. This is the strawberries. It's also a little more opaque, but still got that fluffy head to it with some great tight bubbles on it. It's really
like
pretty.
Rose gold.
Yes, it really is. So the whole point of this, again, this is a definite like heat of the summer. You're hanging out with your friends. You want something that's just got like that little extra to it.
You can smell the strawberries on the nose.
Yeah.
It sounds like my strawberry shortcake doll.
Oh, that's definitely a blast from the past. That's like absolutely perfect.
And that's the thing about tasting is that it's all tied to your memories and to your own personal experience. So the way that you describe beer, the way you describe flavors, it's personal and based on life experience. So explore and taste in that way.
Yeah. And I think too, it makes it easier to remember those key notes of something. Like if you remember your strawberry shortcake doll, then yeah, you're gonna know that memory will take you there right away. And again, this is great with a cheese tray. Like I'm thinking like some brie, maybe even like some blue cheese just to kind of like get that tang in there because of the tang of the strawberries. Like I think that would be a great contrast there.
And it has a lovely body. Like it's very like, it's not full bodied, it's medium bodied, but it just has like this lush feeling in your mouth.
It really does. And I think that, when people think of fruit beers, they think that they're very light. They don't have any body. They don't have any big kick to it. But I mean, these are, this is like you took a bowl of strawberries and kind of squished it down into some juice. And that's what you're getting out of this. So it definitely has a bit more to it.
Yeah, and I also think sometimes when people think of fruit beers, they think they're really sweet. And this one is not sweet. It's dry. Like you're getting so much berries in the aroma, but you're not getting like, a really sweet drink. It's still beer. It still tastes like beer, but with like a beautiful strawberry note.
Yeah, it's not overripe strawberries. Like they're getting close, right? But I mean, you get like a little bit of a tang in there, but really refreshing, very easy to drink. And again, I would throw it in with a cheese tray for sure.
I love that. So our next beer I'm really excited about, we're going to venture into the sour beer category. And this trend is on sour and fruit beers. So this is Jelly King Strawberry Rhubarb from Bellwood's Brewery here in Toronto. It is a seasonal release. So they rotate the fruit combination in Jelly King every few months, and everybody gets really excited about the newest release. It is a sour beer. So that means that it balances acidity with bitterness instead of bitterness and sweetness. And it kind of has a lot more in common with wine than with beer. So let's taste this one together, Ren.
Yeah.
It kind of smells to me like Ontario summer at its best. It's like cracking like a fresh stalk of rhubarb, and you get that like fresh aroma, and also like these beautiful, like you're picking strawberries and that like beautiful smell of like strawberry leaf and the actual berry.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And like, I think of it, I think of the strawberry where it's like not quite ripe, but you're still like, you're the like pick your own, and you're kind of popping them in your mouth and you get that like tangy bit, and you're just like, yep, there it is.
Yeah. Or like even the smell of your fingers when you're picking them, they just smell like berries. It's really lovely. And then on the palate, it's like kind of like puckeringly sour, but in a really lovely way. The acidity is racy. It is very carbonated, and you just get this beautiful bouquet of fruit.
Yeah, and it's funny because I mean, people who know me and have watched these, they know that I'm not a huge sour drinker. But the great thing about this is that the fruit comes to the forefront, where that sour isn't hitting you as hard as some others. And that's, I mean, I think also the fruit combinations are really smart with it. So for me, it's kind of on the list of accessibility for people who are like, I don't do sours. I think that this is the one that can win you over.
Yeah, and it has like a really nice like dryness to it. It's not sweet at all, just like we were talking about with Broad Street. Sour or fruit beers don't mean that they're sweet. It's like
Yes.
a lovely tartness. And Bellwoods was started by two co-founders in 2012 in a really small location on Ossington, and has since grown to two locations. They're like one of Canada's buzziest breweries. If you're traveling from overseas, Bellwoods is probably on your list for Toronto. Definitely worth a visit. And for this beer, I would pair it with like vanilla ice cream, keep it simple. Like do a classic summer combination, strawberry rhubarb pie with vanilla ice cream. Instead, have the beer with ice cream. And the other thing I think goes great with is like summery salads that you would put like a strawberry dressing with almonds and things like that. Like the fresh flavors of summer pair beautifully with this beer from Bellwoods.
Yeah, it's absolutely awesome.
So
next up is the Collective Arts Mai Tai Sour, which I'm super excited about. And Tara, I know you're like waiting for this one, right?
I can't wait.
So Collective Arts is based in Hamilton. They do a lot of arts too. I mean, these cans are absolutely beautiful. They are pieces of art on a can. And so this one is their take on a tropical cocktail. So if you've had a Mai Tai, you know that there's like this specific set of smells that you should be getting out of it. And so this is flavored with bitter orange peel. You're going to get some lime juice. And then there's orgeat, which is a syrup made of almonds. So do be careful if you are allergic to almonds. There are real almonds in this. But it mimics the flavors of a Mai Tai.
Kind of smells like a beach vacation. If I close my eyes and smell it, I can almost hear the ocean.
Yeah. And with this, again, we're talking about not being super sour. This has that note of it, but again, it's the refreshing bits of the cocktail. So again, the sourness, like a Mai Tai is not traditionally a very sweet cocktail. And so it does have that refreshing quality to it, a little bit of the drying. Again, I get the almond on the finish. That syrup flavor is like big at the end.
Now that you said that, I'm really noticing it. I hadn't noticed it before. Oh. It really does drink like a cocktail.
Yeah. And again, I think that's the great array of what we're going through tonight, is that it's not just beer. It's to show kind of what you can do and elevate it and kind of get outside of that usual box. With this, if you want to keep thinking about being tropical with a cocktail, I would think like ceviche, because again, the lime in there and the lemon, coconut shrimp. I would say like maybe even a light curry, just to kind of contrast it. This is like you're on a beach. It really is.
And maybe like a little umbrella, just like garnish.
The umbrella is a must. Pairs well with umbrellas.
Those pairings. Oh my gosh, those pairings sound delicious. I just can't get over the smell.
Yeah, it's honestly like this is the great thing about it is that you are taken back to those spots and you're like, yep, it's hot and I'm in the sun and I have a drink with an umbrella. And I think that this Mai Tai Sour is definitely that great, replicating that flavor.
And it's such a creative and well executed example of how experimental breweries in Ontario and all around the world are getting.
Yeah.
It's so exciting to see these cocktail inspired beers.
Yep. And it's, and being able to get this at the LCBO kind of province wide is also really nice. If you're not traveling to Hamilton to go to Collective Arts, then you can still have your little piece of the beach with this beer from anywhere.
Yeah, the seasonal selections are strong.
Yes, they really are. What is our next drink?
Well, Ron, I love a good acronym. So our next summer trend is the NEPA. The New England style IPA. New England style IPAs are often called hazy or juicy, especially on the cans. And that's because They have a lot of like fruity and like juicy tropical fruit flavors. They have a lot lower bitterness than typical American and English style IPAs. And the hops that they use in these beers are really express like bright fruit and citrus and tropical fruit notes, and sometimes wine notes and grape notes and berries. So they're really an explosion of flavor. This one is from Whitewater Brewing in beautiful Forester Falls. So let's crack this one open and taste it together.
Yeah.
If you know me, you know I love IPAs. I love beautiful hoppy beers, especially these New England styles.
Yes.
So I'm really excited to try this. Again, wasn't quite the perfect pour.
Just because we're beer experts doesn't mean we're always going to pour it properly. But the great thing about that, I mean, even with Tara's awesome pour on that, look at the head. Look at the color of that, right? Like that like nice, clean, white, fluffy head on it. Like
it's really beautiful. And then you get this kind of like sunset orange colored beer. It's really lovely, very hazy. That's very typical of the style. On the nose, I'm getting some pineapple. I'm getting some citrus. I'm getting some like overripe guava. We keep saying overripe and underripe, but it's great to be really specific when you're tasting beer and when you're tasting anything. And let's give it a taste. So typical of this style is that they don't have the same amount of bitterness as other IPAs. So if you kind of are curious about hops, but you're scared of the bitterness, New England IPAs are great ones to pick up. And I just get this, like they're pretty dry, they're full-bodied, creamy, delicious, with lots of tropical fruit flavor. And Whitewater Brewing is in the Ottawa River Valley, and the brewery's named for like the rapids that are nearby. It's very picturesque. There's 2 locations. One is in Cobden and one is in Forester's Falls. And the brewery has this like great library of recipes on their website. So if you ever are curious about pairing up beer and food, go to their website. It's great.
That's awesome. And I feel like it's juicy. It's got that, like, you're almost like biting into it. It's not a thickness, but it's juicy. And I mean, again, you're talking about overripe fruit. And when you bite into overripe fruit, there is this experience of it, right? That you're just like, I feel it. And it's lovely to have that in there with kind of that little extra kick to it.
Oh, I love that description. Yeah, it's like biting into fruit and having it run down your face. It's so juicy and fresh and delicious. And also it looks like juice.
It really does. And I think that, that's part of it too. It's almost, I don't know. I think you could almost say if it looks juicy, it will be juicy. And like 9 times out of 10, that's really how you end up with it. You look at those colors and it's, again, that reminds me kind of a mango-ish, like a lighter mango. And yeah, this is lovely.
Yeah, and I'd pair it with like pineapple fried rice. I'm gonna throw in a wild card here, Ren. When I drink juicy IPAs, I really like to pair them up with a pickle. And you can kind of even like just garnish it with a pickle, like a sour, beautiful dill pickle alongside a juicy IPA is a beautiful contradiction. So you have like the sourness of the pickle with the, beautiful tropical fruit flavors. I would say give it a try.
I'm going to try it. I have an entire jar of pickles in the fridge. So I feel like the tartness of the pickle would be that perfect like counterbalance to that juiciness.
It's lovely. Put a pickle in it.
Put a pickle in it. There you have it, folks. Put a pickle in it. So keeping up with haziness, the next one we're going up to is Amsterdam Hazytown IPA. And so, like the name says, it's Hazytown juice bomb. So it's going to be hazy and it's going to be a juice bomb. So Amsterdam's in Toronto and they've been around since 1986. They have 2 spots. So they have one up in Leaside and then they have one down at the waterfront. Both spots are actually really quite lovely. I used to live by the Leaside one, so I was there a lot, which I appreciate. And so hazy, right? So again, in terms of you can't see through it, your colors, again, are similar to the Whitewater in probably a little darker with the haze, but you're getting those fruity tropical notes again. I always feel that I'm on vacation somewhere and like someone has brought me this this tray of like tropical fruits, which to me would just
Yeah.
be fruits, but like, the mangoes and the papayas and the pineapples, and just like these, it's fresh from the trees, and like they've just been picked, and here's how you have it. That's what this smells like to me.
Oh yeah, it kind of smells like a fresh tropical fruit salad.
Yeah.
And drinking it, like on the sip, it's so smooth. Like there's no like
really smooth,
prickly bitterness. It's just all the flavors are kind of in line.
Yeah, and what I love about it is that you get a little bit of bitterness, but then it gives way to this really smooth, still some of those tropical notes. And it's got a little bit of a beer finish because, again, there's like a little bit of that bite at the end, which is the IPA bite. But honestly, it is so smooth. Once again, if we're talking about hazy, they are a little smoother in terms of what you're going to get out of it. But I mean, this is a barbecue beer. This is, you're having barbecue chicken, barbecue ribs, any of those like big things. I think that this can stand up against it. And I would also like do this with a dessert, like, kind of an angel food cake type thing to kind of play around with it a bit.
Oh, I would love that. I keep thinking whenever I sip these of having it with a creamsicle. I don't know why. It just like has that like, I think of like the orangey, citrusy notes in that.
Old school orange creamsicle. Yes.
Yep. Popsicles and beer.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I would do it in a heartbeat.
So last but not least, we have another IPA. This one is a bit of a mouthful, and the can is really pretty too. It's called Nickelbrook Tongue-Tied Double Dry Hopped IPA. And the trend for this is IPAs and also dry hopping and double dry hopping. You can think of dry hopping kind of like making cold steeped coffees, like cold brew. So when you steep coffee beans, when you make cold brew, you steep coffee beans in water for a pretty long time, like overnight. And that extracts all the beautiful flavors of the beans, but it doesn't extract the bitterness. The same thing happens with beer. So usually when you're making a beer, an IPA, you're adding all of the hops into the beer when it's hot. And so when you're doing that, you're extracting all the bitterness and some flavor and aroma. But if you wait till your beer is done, it's fermented, it's cold, and you add all the hops then, and you cold steep it, you just get the flavors and aromas of the hops, not the bitterness. So if you want to dip your toe into the IPA world, look for a dry hop one, because they're usually all about aroma and flavor and not about bitterness. And let's crack this one and try it. This is from Nickelbrook in Burlington. They are a brewery that was a huge part of the second wave of Ontario Craft Brewing in the early 2000s. And they really carved out a niche for themselves in like the sour and, hop forward beer world. And let's give this one a little sniff. It's a much lighter color than our other beers. It's like kind of a really pretty like yellow gold. And it just smells like papaya and peach. It's like a beautiful fruity bouquet there. And I'm not getting too much bitterness on the palate. I'm getting like lots of kind of like tropical fruit. It's lighter in body than our other beers.
Yeah, there's definitely, I mean, this is again that moment of like juicy versus not juicy. And it's, juicy is definitely like it coats, whereas this it's a little lighter in body. And I get like a little bit of pine, just a teeny tiny bit. Yeah. Whereas with the other two, I didn't get anything at all.
Yeah, you definitely, now that you mention it, I get that like evergreen forest note.
Yeah, it's like a fresh pine. Like, I don't know, you're skiing, you fall, you eat a bit of pine, like it's fresh. It's not dry, right? Because like obviously if you dry something out, the flavor complexity is very different. But so it's like it's fresh pine.
Yeah, it's like kind of forest floor loveliness.
Yeah.
And for this beer, I mean, all I think about when I drink this beer is like fresh spring rolls. Like you could stuff a bunch of like mint and basil from your garden, get some mango in there, and have that like beautiful cold roll contrasted with this like fruity, like very bubbly beer. And then the other thing that I would pair it with would be pulled jackfruit or pulled pork, because I think that it could really stand up to those flavors and cut through them.
Yeah.
It's been so nice to taste through all of these trendy summer beers with you today, Ren. Thank you so much.
Thank you. This was fantastic.
It was nice to see you virtually. And if you want to try these products, they can be bought in 4 different ways. You can purchase your product in store, order online for same day pickup. There's also order online and choose the deliver to store and home delivery. So there's many ways to get these products. Thank you so much to our brewery partners. And also, please enjoy responsibly.
Thanks and good night, friends.